Hey, mamas, welcome back to the Mom Collective. I am Celeste Howard here with my friends, the collective, Rowena, Pamela, and Liz. And we are just going to finish the conversation from last week. So this is season 1, episode 6, but we are continuing our talk on the SWOT analysis. For those that don't remember or are as forgetful as I am, SWOT analysis. Does anyone want to recap what the SWOT stands for?
Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yeah. So we got
Sorry.
through
Yeah.
our strengths and our opportunities last week. And now we're just doing part 2 of the conversation with what our weaknesses are, which I think we're a little bit more aware of often as moms, what some threats are, and then what some of our, no, I'm not going to leave you there with just the threats. We're going to try and talk about how to develop strategies for them.
And I'm sure we, not just me, we're all so glad to finish and continue this conversation with you at this point. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we're friends by now.
Yeah.
Right. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Let's commit. Let's make this episode the commitment.
Yep.
Okay. And
Right.
if you're like me and you love social media, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
Or like us on Spotify, or if you feel so compelled, share us with your friends. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun to be able to gather with you guys and talk about this and just continue to get to know more people. So this is an easier one. We had a harder time saying, oh, my strengths are this. Every day shows you what your weaknesses are, I think.
Amen.
And we talked about that God, isn't just trying to give us a comfortable life, that he really wants us to, this is part of our growing up. This is part of our holiness. This is part of him freeing our hearts. And so, I could start off. I think my biggest weakness that I will struggle with is just not being a morning person.
Mm-hmm.
I never was. I remember having college counselors telling me that it's not a good idea to take 3 night classes, in one semester, which I have done. Or just, I don't know. And just the shame of that, like feeling when my kids were up early in the morning and they're excited to see me, I just want to push everybody away. Or, down to my husband, I remember we would go away on vacation for these romantic getaways, and he's there in the morning as soon as I
Where
can.
you go.
And then
Yeah.
he's there like 30 minutes later and 2 hours later, and then it's lunchtime, and he's still there. And I'd be like, I need some space. Which just makes, I don't know, it made me for a long time, and I still will struggle with that. Like, I need my downtime, my alone time. I get up early so I can do nothing for a while,
Yeah.
not so I could be productive. But
Favorite song.
person.
felt for a long time,
Shout out.
just a lot of shame over that. Just
Yeah.
feeling like an unloving person, that I wasn't excited to see people.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I think that's an important word, shame.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us who feel shame. But you just identified it as what it actually is. It's just a weakness or an opportunity, if you want to look at it that way. But there's nothing to be shamed about because you can do something about it or turn it into an opportunity.
Yeah.
and it's part of, I think in as I continue the journey of motherhood and just having to show up as the best version of myself, just realizing there's really nothing I can do about it. Like we say that we are made in the image and likeness of God, that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. That means that God did that on purpose, that there is a reason. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Does anyone else want to throw your weakness in the ring? Or I think we talked about it a little bit last time, but what would you say is your thing?
You're looking right
at
You're looking right at me.
Rowena.
I mean, okay.
We'll go through so my threats really are morning, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I'm like, the wheels are spinning because of what's kind of happening in life in real time, and maybe what I prepared to say before, rather than what I'm going to share now. It's more my weakness, where I struggle, and kind of a little debilitating at times. I'm admin, like the organization, the task, the weight of anything administrative. I really struggle when it comes to like running the house and the family and just being like,
how does that show up? How does that show its face in motherhood throughout your life? Like, what are some moments in your brain you remember just thinking like, am I really cut out to do this?
Okay. So I think it's, when we've talked about this, not me, but we've talked about how sometimes just getting out the door with little ones is
so
rough.
hard.
And yeah, I'm just thinking about how hard it was. So my 3-year-old is currently potty training right now. And it's taken me back to the time when I had a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, and one was potty training and one was, a 2-year-old.
I love this. So Pamela's like,
I know.
tragic. Liz, on the other hand, goes, oh,
It's so true.
that was
We knocked it out in a day.
Amazing. Amazing.
I read a lot of books.
Which, yes. Yeah. Okay. So this, I'm now 4th time around.
Literally, like you could see the pain. I felt it in my head.
Oh, because it's so emancipating when they're potty trained.
It is.
It's like it changed my life.
What a huge hurdle.
I was the one who was potty trained, not my kids. Like I was trained to drop everything and run and take them to the bathroom. I don't know that I had to learn.
That is actually a good point. You were trained.
I was toddler potty trained. I was they weren't learning anything for
You were taking their cues and running with their cues.
Such a good way to flip that around. That is so true.
Yeah. Well,
I did not knock it out in a day, which goes
I didn't either.
But every kid is different. And so from admin, like being able to see everything kind of like big picture and not necessarily anticipating or planning things ahead of time, but more just not letting the menial tasks of getting to the next step overwhelm me. And no matter how much chaos was happening, being able to still remember the things that I have to remember, all the 5 to 7 things that have to happen before we step out the door. That would, I can't. I can't, because so many other unexpected things have popped up. Yeah, having to keep up with everything and get us to where we need to be, it kind of shuts me down. I don't even want to say overwhelming. It actually shuts me down.
That's wild.
Uh-huh.
What's crazy is, so everything we've said thus far, including mine, you would think is the main qualities of to be a mom or a good mom, right? What we would say. Yours is the morning person. Well, kids get up at the crack of dawn. I don't know one child that doesn't. So how can you not be a morning person?
Yeah. Well,
for you, mom admin. Well, admin is hard with yourself, but now you have 4 boys to run and they're boys. So we all know you'll be doing that for a long time, all their lives. Yeah. And that's something that you're saying is a weakness. And then for me, it's organization, which to do any of the above and more, you have to be somewhat organized.
Yeah.
So I hope this speaks life into some of you who might be in some of our shoes. But
so what does that look like? Having organizational challenges. What are the day-to-day pitfalls? So you guys get to pick which person you kind of line up with, and then we're going to
all.
You can pick your track.
Whose pain points do you most resonate with?
Yeah. Well, my organization would be. So I'm actually I've always been known a rule follower. I like a system, and here's the thing: I thrive at following the system. My problem is it's really hard for me to create the system.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's where I get lost. So I don't know if I had to fix it, but I did come up with something with Celeste's help years ago. But now it's everywhere, organizers. And now friends will come and organize for you for free.
Yeah.
So we've moved twice now in the past few years since I've had kids. And I've been blessed. First, I realized this was a weakness. I hired an organizer. It was worth every penny.
Yeah.
My husband was kind of against it because it does cost a lot.
It's an
now you
investment.
can find better priced ones, but at the time it was kind of new. And our whole family dynamic changed.
Yeah.
But it was because for so long I had shame, so I didn't do anything about it, nor did I even think I could do anything about it for a while.
I just felt like you had to keep struggling.
Well,
You keep struggle and struggle.
Chaos and disorganization too.
Okay.
If you're surrounded by disorganization, it's hard to see through.
And it showed too, my husband, once I finally did something, what's wild is I had 2 babies since then, and everything because I'm a rule system follower.
Okay.
We had, and it's funny because I remember when they were coming, they're I was asking them questions, the organizers, and they're yeah, it's just really sad though when you come back a year later because no one keeps the system in place. And then what's funny is I am a rule follower.
Got
So,
it.
as long as someone does, I'm just not good at that part.
Yeah.
I get my money, so I do it, and my husband loved that, and so it helped when we moved again. He was all about getting the rooms we needed that I couldn't get through organized.
So much of it is, again, the shame or thinking that we need to be able to do it all. We need to get it done, but it doesn't mean that we have to have necessarily the gifts and talents to do it all. I think when you realize at the end of the day, all these things, whether it's closet organization, getting out the door in time, being super chipper, like those things are, but they're negotiable. They don't matter. Like you could get to, like, what matters, the only thing that is not negotiable is you have to like your kids in the process. Yes, we all love our
So
kids,
important.
Yeah.
but you have to like them. And I think the only way you can really like being home with your kids and like your kids, there are so many things we could do better. There are so many ways that the world around us shows us that we have failed to be perfect in every single point, which again is an impossibility. But we get so stuck in that I think we get kind of paralyzed by this list and we don't show up. You know, like if we're not ourselves, we take away our kids'
That's true.
mom. Like
Yeah,
their only
that's true.
possibility, we're their only option. We are the only mom for our children.
Yeah.
And if we don't show up and we get paralyzed, we leave them motherless.
Yeah.
When we set up a task list of sorts that we think we need to complete in motherhood, our kid kind of becomes the enemy. Like
They get in the
become,
way.
they
get in
become
the way.
the one who made the mess. They become the one who is making us late.
Yeah.
They become the one whose schedules we can't come up. And they kind of are an adversary. And the only thing we need to be is their advocate. The only thing we need to be is their biggest fan. And I would say none of the rules matter. Like change, if you are living a life where you're stressed out or you want to be sweeter to your kid or you feel kind of just burdened or heavy at the end of the day, just sit back a second, take inventory, change the rules, change them. No one says you have to be 100% on time. If you're never going to be, like I am just okay with being late everywhere.
So freeing to hear.
Used to be my answer.
Yeah.
But I was sacrificing my kids
Yeah.
to not be 5 minutes late. That's a stupid trade. So often in the quest to be a great mom and to succeed, we lose
Get lost.
our kids. Our kids
isn't that
become
the point?
enemy number one.
Yeah.
Isn't that the point? The kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true. It's really speaking to me because I have the little kids. So I forget in those hectic, crazy stress moments, like let's not be late, trying so hard to be what I'm not, that they can't reason with that. Like, in their little world and minds, my son's 4, my daughter's 2. Like I just look like angry, yelling mommy who's mad at me. But I can't reason with, oh, if we're late to this or my doctor's appointment, like the doctor's not going to see you. Like they don't understand that and they can't, no matter how hard we try. That's just not in their mental capacity at the moment. But it's such a good reminder.
And just to be clear, I'm not saying don't ever have strategies. I think it's really important to not feel shame about that, to not get overwhelmed and shut down and cease showing up, just to try to meet a goal. But it is good to have a strategy. Like I think we've all developed strategies, and I'm sure you have too, in various ways. And just we need to keep looking at our lives and evaluating what is my strategy. My morning strategy was I have a chair I sit in. They know if I'm there, I'm not going to really be talking. I put Cheerios and, little yogurts and stuff on the bottom shelf, have TV on, and they just know that that just takes me a minute. And I don't feel like I don't love them because if I feel like a bad person, I carry that the rest of the day and I'm not really loving them. And I just give myself the freedom to be like, I'm not going to show up for a little bit. And that's totally fine because I will. I will show up in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's a myriad of things like that. But even like with your closets, like you can have, I guess what I was trying to say, I'm afraid I might have communicated like, well, then just don't worry about being organized. Your kids are more important. Well, you can't live a peaceful life in the lack of organization. Some people can. And if you can live an unorganized life and just have fun and like this kind of more free-form day, and that brings you peace and close to your kid, do that. There is not one way. Like, just keep changing the rules until you can fit into them and you can be the most peaceful, best version of yourself. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
It's so hard. It's like you get so focused on the journey instead of the destiny that actually matters, like where you're going.
I don't particularly share the problems you guys all have, but I have the privilege and the luxury of being older and looking back, and I was able to be organized and out the door and everything else, and I was able to push forward. But what I never did, and I have a lot of guilt over it now, is I never lived in the moment, because there was always things to do, and we had to get here and we had to do this, and I was always so envious of people who could sit on the floor and play with their kids, or like you drew boundaries, sit in the chair and give yourself your own time. And to me, because I was always going, I so regret never living in the moment and being present and just sitting back and appreciating my kids. I never did that. And so there's always chance for redemption, and I do it now, and I try to, but I mean, sometimes the flip side, I had what all you guys had, but what I was lacking was appreciating my kids, living in the moment with my kids, just stopping and listening. And by the way, if you do not stop, you cannot hear the Holy Spirit. You cannot hear God speaking. You lose all of that, because I was so consumed with the organization that
Like,
you
how
guys
do you
lacked.
how do you do that as a mom?
Interesting.
Because like I wasn't self-aware back then. It's hard, and I certainly was organized, but I was deficient in living in the moment with my kids and appreciating and appreciating their childhood. I mean, their childhood was, there was always something to do next, you know?
Yeah. And it's first and foremost, like, kids are not a task list. This is a different kind of job. It's a vocation,
So
and they are relationships.
Exactly.
It's relationships. Like, the goal of everything we're doing and all the strategies, and we'll talk later about like raising kids, it's to keep those relationships going. So set up an environment where you're available. And what the I don't know what that takes. It's different for everybody, and we all have our own things that just cause us to quit or shut down or kind of step out. And like the kids don't need the extra something or kindly or the more this. They need you.
They need you to be present and listen.
So what does that take? It's and it's different for everyone. And I think you can really, we were talking a little bit earlier, Liz, you were talking about like ways of like being purposeful and being intentional and like some habits that you started doing.
Well, so that's why when I started looking back, I started thinking, I was introduced to the Examine, which is a form of like prayerful reflection. And it forced me to stop, pause, be present, and think. And so, you basically start out with prayer, and then you look back on your day and you look for places where God was present, where you felt love, where you felt joy. And I love that part of the Examine, because I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. But then you need to understand where you were lacking, where you weren't listening to the Holy Spirit, where you were just doing your own thing and you were in your lane. And then you express gratitude. And then the most important part of the Examine to me is, how can I do better the next day? How can I fix this and try to do better the next day? And there's so much grace given to us, so much grace, and there's so much love given to us. And you learn to forgive yourself. I think, at least for me in the Examine, I learned to forgive myself, and there's always tomorrow. There's always a new day. There's always the next day to start over. And I'm grateful to have that tool. I really am. So, and again, because I'm older than you guys, and I have the luxury of looking back and now trying to fix things. I think that's part of why you have grandchildren, by the way. so you can fix things, and you can teach your kids. Like, I'm sorry I was just on the phone last night with my daughter, apologizing for things I did as a mother. I claim my deficiency. I do. And I'm sorry.
I think that's good, because I think then they realize they don't need to be perfect either.
No.
I think
what
having those
beautiful virtue to model.
But then I try to teach them, here's what I would do differently. This is this is what, and by the way, I am so in awe of this generation now, these young kids who do everything so differently than I do. They really are so much more present, like guys, and so yeah, I hope to kind of get a little redemption in apologizing to my children and teaching them to do what I didn't do. And make them better parents than I was. And you can't go back. I did things wrong, but I've forgiven myself. It's fine. Everybody does the best that they can do. They do.
And you just
I believe it.
do it again the next day.
No.
Trying to show up.
You just start over the
Keep
next
trying
day.
to show up.
Yeah.
You do.
And then you pray that because you're the specific mom that God made you for your
Amen.
specific children, that what you did give is what they actually needed.
Amen. I agree.
No one does a Mother's Day card or a mother tribute and says, my closet was always clean. I never had a smelly lunchbox.
Right.
Like
That's so
my
true.
socks were perfectly
That's so true.
They always paired up.
Yeah.
I was completely, got where I needed to be. Like you were, whatever. Like they don't
Yeah.
care.
That's so true.
No one said, I didn't get to do the 15th sport I wanted to do.
That's so true.
They don't. They talk about, was mom present?
Yeah.
Did she like
Exactly.
me? Their memories are a time that like you held them or you looked them in the eye and listened.
So true.
Like those are the things that matter. So, but I think we all need to kind of just figure out, how do we show up? I would say for kind of takeaways for this week is that we talked about strengths, and opportunities at the beginning of the first part of this episode, and just really trying to use our strengths now in our sphere of influence. Not thinking for later when I don't have kids anymore, oh gosh, when I didn't used to have them, or oh, when I can leave them. But like right now in your space, how can you use your strengths? And then also with our weaknesses, we can very easily, I think, know our weaknesses and identify the threats to them. But I guess our kind of challenge to you is, what are some strategies? Come up with some strategies, come up with some ways to exercise those weaknesses. And so that they can become strengths, because you pull close to the Lord, knowing that you need him, and you have humility before your children, and you're forced to put that relationship first every time you struggle. Like that really can become a strength and can really, it makes us grow in our vocation as mothers and just the people God wants us to be. I think that's his will. That is what he wants of us. But so we are so glad that you stuck with us and let us join you on part 1 and part 2 of this this topic. And I can't wait to see you next week. But until we meet again, just remember, you were handpicked for this. You were handpicked for your specific family. So just lean in.
Amen.
God bless. Bye.